I first started hiking back in the summer of 2021. Initially, when I started hiking and being outside in the summer of 2021, I took my phone to listen to the Rooted series. And throughout my time doing that, I started to become a little distracted, and it was hard to really focus on what I was listening to. Moving forward, I chose to start leaving my phone back at the house, and that's when I really started to create the time for prayer time and just space to focus on different things and priorities in my life. Hi, my name is Shane, and this is my story. In November of 2021, my dad became sick and ended up passing away unexpectedly. And so that was a huge shock to our family and friends. My dad was definitely my best friend. He lived right down the road from us. He was a great father, a great husband, a great grandfather, and a good neighbor to those around him. So over the past several months prior to my dad passing, I had developed that time and created that time in my life to have by myself and use that time for prayer. When I'm outside, that's really where I really see God the most. And so I've used that time to work through the grieving process of the passing of my father. The passing of my father was extremely difficult for me. It was the first person in my life that had died that I was extremely close with. So that made it very difficult to work through the grieving process. One thing that was very difficult that I think me and my wife and kids had to learn together was grieving not only for myself, but also grieving together as a family. With that, my alone time to be out by myself and be out in nature where I see God the most has really helped me specifically because it allows me to focus on the grieving and the loss of my dad. Growing up, my dad was a very stern and strict father, and there was an expectation to not show any type of emotion, especially if you were, physically hurt, emotionally hurt, kind of the old school adage, bury it down and don't bring it up. And so that's pretty much the way I chose to deal with my emotions. Since the passing of my dad, that was pretty difficult. When I'm outside and out in nature by myself, that's where I'm able to connect with God and deal with some of the emotions and grieving process with the loss of my dad, which allows me to be a better person to help my wife grieve, my mom, my sister, and our kids. So that's a very important time for me to check myself and to get my mind right. That way I can efficiently and effectively help other people in my life that are grieving through the same process. The alone time out on my hike has been very transformational in my life. It's allowed me to be a lot more patient. I've grown a lot in my relationship with God, and through that, I've been able to be a little bit more merciful with different people and relationships in my life, extend that grace when it's needed, and it's also allowed me to work through the grieving process by myself and with God, which also allows me to hopefully be a better person to help those who are grieving around me.